Most men at this stage of life already know they should value themselves. You've read the books, you've lived the hard lessons. But here's the paradox. Knowing your worth isn't the same as living it. Even seasoned men still catch themselves negotiating their peace, their time, their energy, like a king renting his own throne. Picture this. Your life is a fortress. The walls are strong, the gates are high, yet too often you hand the keys to others without even noticing. They don't storm the fortress, you invite them in. That's where value leaks away, not in ignorance, but in habit. This video unfolds in 12 shifts, each one crafted to remind you, sharpen you, and fortify that quiet standard you already carry inside. By the time we get to the later chapters, I'll leave you with a gift. Not flashy, but one that could stay with you long after this video ends. So before we begin, let me ask you this. If you already know your value, where in your life are you still giving out the keys? And are you willing to change the locks tonight? 1. Build a real relationship with yourself. Most men take better care of their car than their own mind. I've been guilty of it too. That's the trap. We polish the outside, but neglect the relationship that matters most, the one with ourselves. Think about it. If a friend constantly broke his promises to you, canceled at the last minute, or spoke to you with disdain, would you still trust him? Most of us would walk away. Yet how often do you do the same to yourself, then expect self-respect to survive? It sounds like a riddle, but it's reality. Self-respect doesn't collapse in one blow. It erodes in silence. One missed promise, one ignored boundary, one "I'll do it tomorrow" that quietly becomes never. Like water dripping on stone, it wears you down until trust in yourself feels like a stranger's voice. Here's your practice for today. Keep one promise to yourself, no matter how small. It could be as simple as going to bed at the time you said you would. One kept promise is worth more than 100 empty ones. The hidden catch is this. Every small promise you keep is like a deposit into an invisible bank account of trust. Neglect it, and you live overdrafted in your own soul. Invest in it daily, and suddenly your words carry weight, not just with others, but with yourself. So let me ask you, if the man you are today were your closest friend, would he trust you to keep your word? And if not, which promise will you finally keep tonight? 2. Make self-love the source of your happiness. We men love to act like happiness is a trophy, win it once and it should shine forever. But trophies gather dust. Joy doesn't. I once knew a manager who stacked promotion after promotion. On paper, he was winning. His office wall was lined with certificates. His phone lit up with applause. But the day the applause died, his smile disappeared. His happiness had been rented, and the lease expired overnight. What most people miss is this. Joy isn't something you chase, it's something you allow. 2 men can stand in the same storm. One breaks, the other bends and rises. The difference isn't luck, it isn't money, it's the ground beneath their feet. Self-love is that ground. Without it, every victory feels temporary, like a tent pitched on shifting sand. Think of it this way. Happiness built on applause is like lighting a fire with newspaper. It flares bright, it burns fast, and it leaves you cold. But happiness built on self-respect is like a volcano beneath the ground. Quiet, unseen, but gathering unstoppable force. When storms rage above, it doesn't crumble. It rises stronger, shaping the very landscape around it. Pause for a moment. If nothing in your life changed tomorrow, same income, same body, same relationships, could you still find reasons to feel enough? Sit with that question. because the answer reveals whether your joy is owned or borrowed. And here's the quiet irony. The more you anchor happiness and self-love, the freer you become to enjoy everything else. Applause, recognition, even love from others, they stop being oxygen and start being sunlight. Nice to have, but not required for survival. If your happiness were an ice sculpture, are you shaping it or waiting for it to melt? And if this hits home, drop a comment. Tell me where in your life you've been renting joy instead of owning it. I'd love to hear your story. 3. Set boundaries without guilt. Let's be honest. Most of us have said yes while every part of us was screaming no. Then we sat there resentful, trapped in conversations or obligations we never wanted. That isn't kindness. That's self-betrayal disguised as politeness. Boundaries aren't walls, they're instructions. They teach people how to treat you. Without them, your yes becomes invisible, expected, assumed, taken for granted. I once had a colleague who was too nice to ever push back. Every extra task landed on his desk, while his own work stalled. He wasn't failing because of talent. He was failing because he refused to draw the line where he ended and others began. And it's not just men. I remember a woman who always answered family calls, even during her busiest work hours. She thought it was love, but really it was fear. Fear of seeming cold, fear of disappointing. The result? Burnout, resentment, and ironically, less genuine love left to give. Here's your practice this week. Choose one boundary and pre-decide it. No work calls after dinner. No toxic conversations at family gatherings. No apologizing for resting when you need it. Whatever you pick, write it down and honor it like law. Think of boundaries like road signs. Without them, the traffic of other people's demands crashes straight into your life. With them, the road is clear. You can finally move toward your own destination without collisions. Only you can answer this. What one boundary, if held firm this week, would instantly raise the respect you command, not just from others, but from yourself? But here's the question. If you never draw the line, how will anyone know where you end and they begin? 4. Protect your energy with the power of no. I once accepted so many quick calls in a single week that my calendar looked like a barcode. It wasn't impressive, it was exhausting. That's the hidden cost of handing out yes after yes. You disappear in your own schedule. Energy is life's true currency. Lose money and you can rebuild. Lose energy and even the smallest task feels like climbing a mountain with weights on your ankles. Marcus Aurelius called it guarding the inner citadel. That citadel is your energy. Every careless yes is leaving the gates unguarded. What most people forget is this. Every yes is secretly two decisions, the one you see and the one you don't. Say yes to the meeting that doesn't matter, and you're also saying no to the workout, the rest, the project that could change your life. No is never just rejection. No is protection. Think of your energy like the queen in chess. If you move her on every small play, chasing every request, by the time the real battle arrives, you've already lost your greatest piece. But guard her carefully, and she becomes the force that decides everything. But if you choose carefully where the water flows, it powers mills, it grows fields, it sustains life. One guarded no can save 10 wasted yeses. I once knew a man who agreed to every late-night request from his boss. He thought it proved loyalty, but within months his health crumbled, his family grew distant, and his work lost quality. He didn't lose because of weakness. He lost because his no was missing. And here's the reversal no one expects. When you finally say no with clarity, people respect you more. Because a yes without strength is invisible. But a no with conviction, That draws a line, and people feel the weight of it. Which costs you more, saying yes to others or saying no to yourself? 5. Let go of people who don't value you. Some people treat you like a priority at first, then quietly downgrade you to an option. And the hardest part? You stay telling yourself the old version of them will return. But memory is not a contract. It cannot hold your worth. I once knew a woman who excused every slight from her partner. She told herself he was stressed, that he'd improve, that maybe her standards were too high. But the truth was simpler. His actions had stopped matching his words. Every extra month she stayed wasn't love, it was delay. And I knew a man who clung to friends that drained him. They mocked his dreams, dismissed his struggles, yet he kept showing up, hoping their loyalty would eventually match his. It never did. In the end, it wasn't betrayal that broke him. It was his own refusal to leave the table where his value was no longer seen. The conflict hidden in plain sight is this: you cannot claim to value yourself while investing in someone who repeatedly shows you they don't. Real care doesn't need decoding. It's steady, visible, consistent. Anything less is not devotion, it's habit. Think of it like wearing shoes 2 sizes too small. At first, the squeeze feels tolerable, but over time, every step warps your posture, damages your stride, and leaves scars that outlast the shoes. Staying in relationships that don't honor you is the same. You shrink to fit where you no longer belong. Be honest, are you staying because of love or just because of memory? Here's your shift. When words and actions don't match, believe the actions. They're the only part of the story that cannot lie. And the longer you stay in denial, the more you pay interest on someone else's neglect. Pause for a moment and ask yourself, are you staying because of love or only because of memory? And if it's just memory, is it worth the weight of your future? If this chapter spoke to you, share this video with someone who needs to hear it. Sometimes one shares the nudge that helps a friend finally walk away. 6. Tame your inner critic. I once caught myself rehearsing failure so perfectly I could have sold tickets to it. That's how convincing the inner critic can be, painting vivid disasters that haven't even happened. I remember waiting at an airport with Jonas. He was calmly sketching in his notebook while I replayed doubts in my head. At one point, he looked up and said quietly, "You realize you're losing battles that haven't even started." That silence hit harder than any lecture. And I've seen the same with a friend who was brilliant at her work, yet each time she presented, her inner critic whispered, "They'll see you're not enough." The audience admired her, but she only heard the imaginary chorus of doubt. She wasn't fighting reality. She was fighting echoes. And maybe you too. Are you losing sleep over battles that exist only in your head? Think of your critic like a neighbor's barking dog. It's loud, it's distracting, but it isn't prophecy of danger. You can learn to lower the volume. One simple tool, add the word maybe. Maybe I'll fail. Then ask, is it fact or is it fear? Most of the critic's claims collapse under that single test. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Your critic is inside your mind, which means whether it whispers or shouts, it ultimately answers to you. If your life were a chessboard, which piece is your critic sacrificing without permission? 7. Use self-care as a daily investment. Most men know how to guard their assets, bank accounts, houses, tools, even the car in the garage. But the body and mind that keep it all moving? Too often they're left running on fumes. You wouldn't drain a business of its capital and expect it to grow. Yet many of us treat ourselves exactly that way. Self-care is not luxury, it's maintenance. It's the sharpening of the blade before the next battle. the oil for the engine that carries your life forward. Seneca once wrote, "No man has the power to have everything he wants, but he has the power not to want what he has not." In other words, strength is not about endless additions. It's about wisely sustaining what you already carry. Think of your day like a bank account. Sleep, good food, quiet time. Those are deposits. Late nights, toxic conversations, endless scrolling. Those are withdrawals. The numbers always add up, whether you pay attention or not. If you ignore the balance, life will still cash the check, and the debt will always come due in burnout, illness, or collapse. I once knew a father who never missed a day of work, but always missed meals, rest, and recovery. He thought sacrifice made him strong until the day his body forced him to stop. His collapse didn't happen suddenly. It was compound interest on years of neglect. And here's the ritual I promised you. Each night before sleep, write down one action from the day that honored yourself. Then place your hand on your chest, breathe deeply, and whisper, "I did not abandon myself today." Try it for a week. This small act rewires your mind. It starts to see you as reliable, as someone worth protecting. The real test is this. If the people around you could see the way you treat your own body and mind, would they recognize a man of value or a man quietly running on empty? 8. Learn to enjoy your own company. For many men, silence feels like punishment. The moment the room goes quiet, the phone comes out, the TV switches on, or another meeting gets added to the calendar. We're trained to believe stillness means something is missing. But what if it means something is finally whole? Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Nowhere you can go is more peaceful, more free of interruptions than your own soul." The richest peace isn't found in a vacation, a mountain lodge, or a corner office. It's found in the ability to sit with yourself without needing constant noise. I remember a friend who dreaded evenings alone. He filled every night with company, not because he wanted it, but because he feared the silence. When he finally spent a weekend solo, no TV, no calls, just long walks and cooking for himself, he told me later it felt like meeting a stranger he should have known long ago. That stranger was him. Think of it like learning to breathe underwater. At first, every second feels suffocating. You panic, you thrash, you want to escape. But with practice, you discover a rhythm. Silence is the same. At first, it feels unbearable, but once you surrender, it carries you. Look in the mirror and ask, when was the last time you felt not lonely, but genuinely at home in your own presence? And if it's been too long, what would it take to finally meet yourself again? 9. Release the need for external validation. Here's where most men stumble, not at failure, but at applause. Why does one compliment lift us up while one careless insult ruins the whole week? Because too many of us let the world's applause, or silence, set the price of our worth. That's not freedom. That's emotional slavery. Epictetus once warned, "If you wish to be free, do not concern yourself with what others think of you." Opinions are just that, opinions. They're shaped by moods, biases, even insecurities. None of them have the authority to define you. I knew a man who chose a career not because he loved it, but because it looked impressive at family dinners. Every time he introduced himself, he got nods of approval. But when he was alone, he felt hollow. The applause was loud, but the silence was louder. And I once knew a woman who lived for her Instagram feed. Every trip, every outfit, every dinner had to be captured and shared. Her happiness rose and fell with the likes on her screen. When the numbers dipped, so did her spirit. What she didn't see was that the moments she was chasing approval were the very moments she stopped truly living them. Think of it like eating candy for every meal. Sweet, addictive, satisfying for a moment, but it leaves you empty, jittery, weak. Real nourishment comes from within, from building a life you'd be proud of even if no one else ever noticed. What's eating more of your spirit right now? The critics outside or the critic inside? 10. Forgive yourself and move forward. Many men carry their mistakes like unpaid debts, replaying the same scene at 2 a.m. The words said in anger, the chances not taken, the weakness exposed. But guilt doesn't pay the bill. It only chains you to a moment that no longer exists. Guilt is loyalty to a version of yourself that has already expired. You are no longer that man, yet you keep bowing to his ghost. Seneca wrote, "The greatest obstacle to living is the expectation of tomorrow." I'd add, the second greatest is worshiping yesterday. Holding on to yesterday's errors robs you of today's strength. I once met a business owner who lost everything in one reckless deal. For years, he introduced himself as the guy who blew it. His failure had become his surname. But the day he reframed it, not as a verdict, but as tuition, was the day he began to rebuild. And I've seen the same with a woman who carried shame over a broken marriage. She replayed every fight, every word, every mistake as if reliving them could rewrite the ending. It couldn't. The moment she shifted from asking, "Why did I fail?" to "What did I learn?" her story changed. The same pain that once chained her became the proof she could endure, grow, and start again. Think of mistakes like broken bricks in a wall. Left shattered, they weaken the whole structure. But if you gather them, reshape them, and lay them again, they become part of a stronger foundation. Your past errors are not rubble to bury you, but material to build with. Try this practice tonight. Write down one mistake you keep replaying, then rewrite it in a single line as a lesson. Don't just cross it out, transform it into fuel. Because the past cannot be erased, but it can be reforged. And that's where most men lose. If a close friend had made the same mistake, would you demand he stay guilty forever? Or would you urge him to rise and keep going? Why treat yourself with less compassion? 11. Build confidence through consistent action. Confidence isn't lightning striking from the sky. It's bricklaying, one small action stacked on another until the structure stands tall on its own. Most men wait to feel ready before they move, but readiness doesn't come first, movement does. I once promised myself I'd get back into the gym after a long break. Day one, I was clumsy, weaker than I remembered, and tempted to quit. But here's what surprised me. By week 3, it wasn't the weights that grew heavier. It was my belief that grew lighter. The doubt had less grip because I'd shown up enough times to prove it wrong. And I remember a woman who dreamed of writing a book. For years, she said, "When I'm inspired, I'll begin." The inspiration never came until one day she forced herself to write a single page. One page became 5. 5 became chapters. Confidence didn't arrive before the work. It arrived because of the work. Think of it like carving an ice sculpture. At first, every strike feels fragile, even pointless. The block seems solid, unchanging. But stroke by stroke, the shape begins to appear. Confidence is the same. Fragile in the beginning, but only revealed to those who keep chiseling before the moment melts away. By the time the tree appears above ground, the strength has already been built below. Confidence grows the same way, unseen, until one day it stands unshakable. Epictetus wrote, "If you wish to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid." Growth is awkward at first. You'll sweat, you'll stumble, you'll look unpolished. But every act of persistence is a vote for the man or woman you are becoming. Here's the hidden cost no one talks about. What step have you delayed because you were waiting to feel ready? And what would shift if you stopped waiting and simply moved forward today? 12. Practice gratitude for who you are. We live in a culture that magnifies what's missing. More money, more status, more recognition. But fulfillment doesn't arrive through constant addition. It begins with noticing the wealth already in your hands. Seneca wrote, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more that is poor." The same applies inwardly. Think back, how many storms have you already walked through with nothing but resilience, patience, or courage? Those qualities didn't vanish when the storm ended. They live in you now, even if you never name them out loud. I once knew a man who felt insignificant compared to his more successful friends. He thought gratitude was too simple to matter. But the day he wrote down 5 things about himself he respected, his persistence, his loyalty, his endurance, his honesty, his humor, he realized he'd been rich all along, just blind to his own treasure. And I knew a woman who often compared herself to others on social media. Every scroll left her feeling smaller. But when she began ending each day by writing one reason she was proud of herself, whether showing patience with her child or finishing a hard task, the comparisons lost their grip. Gratitude didn't make her stop striving, but it gave her a stable floor to rise from. Think of gratitude like a mirror that reflects not what you lack, but what you already hold. Without it, you chase endlessly and never arrive. With it, you start each day anchored, not desperate, but abundant. That's the moment of truth. When was the last time you looked in the mirror and said, without conditions, "I am enough, even as I keep becoming more"? And what would change if you started tonight? At the end of all these shifts, it comes down to one truth. The world will treat you the way you treat yourself. If you ignore your own needs, so will they. If you break your own boundaries, others will too. But if you value yourself consistently, quietly, firmly, you set a standard no one else can lower. Loving yourself more than anyone else doesn't mean closing off. It means you finally love from a place of strength, not desperation. It means your happiness no longer hangs on applause, and your peace no longer shatters at rejection. And if you're still here, it tells me one thing. You're ready to stop borrowing worth and start owning it. Epictetus once said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." Mastery doesn't begin with conquering the world. It begins with conquering the mirror. The way you speak to yourself, the way you honor your promises, the way you guard your energy. These are the foundations of freedom. Think of self-worth like the roots of an ancient tree. Unseen, quiet, buried deep, but everything above ground depends on them. When your roots are neglected, the branches wither in every storm. But when your roots are nourished, even the harshest winds only prove your strength. And here's the reversal most never expect. When you stop chasing validation, you start attracting it. When you no longer beg for respect, people sense it, and they adjust. Not because you demanded, but because you embodied. So as you leave this video, carry one reminder. You don't need permission to value yourself. Not tomorrow, not after the next success, not when someone else approves. Start now, because when you do, every connection you build, every goal you pursue, will flow from a foundation no one can shake. And if you found value here, subscribe and stay with me. We'll keep building that foundation together, one shift at a time. So one last time, when the applause fades, will you still respect the man in the mirror?